Hi, this is Modern Medieval Man. What we're going to be doing now is we're going to be making pepper sauce. The reason why it's called pepper sauce is it's basically made out of pepper. Some of the ingredients is stock and vinegar. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to toast some bread. What I've done over here is I've got a couple of slices of bread and I've ripped them up. What I've not done is I've not baked this bread. I've gone to an artisan bread maker and I've bought some Vienna sourdough. You could use any type of loaf though. You could even use a modern white bread. So it doesn't really matter, but it does need to be actual chunks of bread. You don't want to use bread crumbs or anything like that. So what I've got over here is I've got my pottery frying pan going and I've got 2 tablespoons of butter and I'm just going to melt that off. So a large amount of butter. Alright, so what I'm doing here now is I'm just melting the butter just like you would in a normal frying pan. The great thing about earthenware frying pans or any earthenware cookingware is the earthenware actually changes the flavour of the food. I know that seems really odd, but if anyone's cooked in a tagine, made like Moroccan tagine food, or even made any sort of South American dishes in South American cookware, or even some of the Japanese earthenware noodle bowls, it does have a different flavour. It's something about the vessels that you cook in changes the flavour of the food. You'd have to talk to somebody who's more of a culinary expert to get the ins and outs of it. So once we've melted the butter, I'm going to be frying off the bread. So while we're waiting for the butter to melt, we'll just talk a little bit about the cookware that we had in the 14th century. So there was, obviously we had earthenware. We see iron sort of skillets as well. Copper and bronze were common as well as seen in texts. We see some in the illuminations. It's very hard to find extant pieces in metalware. The reason is through the different centuries it would be repurposed and reused. So you look at a sort of a 14th century copper skillet. Is that 14th century? Is it 15th century? Is it 13th century? Because it's copper. If it gets damaged, it gets repaired. It gets used by the next generation, The shapes don't change that much and don't get improved upon because at the end of the day, it's a skillet. So how often would that change? So what I'm doing now is I'm just frying off the bread. So I'm just going to put that in the butter. As I said, there is a lot of butter. So you would call this a French amount of butter. This is going to take a long time to heat up on the coals. If I was in a kitchen, or if I actually had one, which will be an upcoming project, I will actually have a bellows. You can actually use a fan, but I will be just blowing on the coals to heat them up so I can fry this bread off. Alright, so what I'm going to be doing here now, while I'm just letting the last of the bread toast, I'm going to be adding a cup of beef stock. I asked for beef broth, but I'm just going to be using stock. I'm using stock cubes because I don't have time to make a beef stock or beef broth. And I'm also going to be adding some white vinegar, and it's going to be around about a tablespoon. A lot of medieval sauces use vinegar. I'm going to be using white vinegar. That's because I find white vinegar doesn't really have any other taste besides just that vinegar taste. It's going to use a little bit more than one. That's more of a personal taste reason, not because the recipe asks for more than one. So I'm going to bring this to the boil. While I'm bringing this to the boil, so what I've got in here now is black pepper. Obviously, being a pepper sauce, black pepper's one of those important ingredients. I'm just going to roughly crush them. I'm not going to grind it. It's going to be a slight light tapping, just to break the outer shell of the black pepper. Now that's been done, I'm going to add that to the sauce. As well as the breadcrumbs. Sorry, not the breadcrumbs, the toasted bread. Now, before I did say 1 teaspoon of vinegar, what I meant to say was 1 tablespoon of vinegar. And all that gets brought to the boil, and you're done. So that's pepper sauce.